And what is going on, guys? Welcome. We are talking the Alsco 300 Xfinity Series. I am your host, JSU. With me today, is Coop. Coop, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how you doing, JSU? Just trying to recover from last night, man. We had a perfect strategy. Hendrick Motorsports plus Truex, plus Blaney, Amarillo, and Benedetto, and everything was going great. And then the last two laps, man, William Byron spun out, which obviously hurt, but then he also killed Alex Bowman, and it all blew up in two laps. So,
man, we got to talk about that real quick because you were just so on point with the Hendrick Motorsports and the cheaper guys and the guys in the back who you wanted to kind of pair together, and I felt like you gave really good info and took really good stands, which showed to kind of be right. And then in just two laps left, and then everything goes to shit and just blows up everyone's lineups. I picked Bowman to win. I was feeling really good. I had pretty almost lock button Bowman pretty much. On FanDuel. So
the other piece too is like Kevin Harvick was a goner the whole night, man. He hung in like 10th to like 15th to 20th position, and then damn, 5th or 6th he finished. And at 37%, that helps.
And then we didn't even talk about Elliott, pitting. And I'm still confused by why that happened. I mean, do you have any idea why that happened? Like, I still don't understand with 2 laps left.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is, his crew chief was like, if we don't pit, then everybody else is going to pit, and they're going to have, better tires than what we have.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, and you watch the race, and this is what really questions me about his crew chief, was he watching the flipping race, man. Because the whole entire race, whether you had 4 tires that were fresh, 2 tires that were fresh, and Joey Logano, what was 0 tires and was left? They were all first place, and they all got out there. Like, I don't know what the guy was thinking.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't get it. Elliott looked the best. Him and Bowman, really, in my opinion, looked the best throughout the race. But let's get to our second host, our guy, Big T. Big T's joining us to talk some trucks. Oh, wait. Are we talking trucks, Big T?
I still don't know what we're talking here. I mean, last week, the trucks. Last night, though, just to talk about that, I mean, Coop, you were all over it. For me, as a novice NASCAR player, I mean, there was 4 just clear – well, for sure 3 clear plays, and then I like Custer a ton too. But Almirola, Blaney – Matty D and Cole Custer were like so clear the best plays to me, and they all crushed. So it was going to be a good day, but man, the wreck with 2 laps left, and then I hate how it only goes. Is it always been like that, Coop, with the 2 laps overtime? Why is it not like 5 laps or something to where it's 2 laps is so fluky?
Yeah, I agree. It would make it more interesting. I don't know if it, what NASCAR, it's always been since they started that, green, white checker.
I love the idea of it, though. Like, the idea is awesome. But, man, I mean, the whole race comes down to if there's a wreck in the last 2 laps, and then, like you guys were saying, he's the best. He's the best guy basically the whole race, and then he drops to 20th.
Yeah.
And sure, he's still in the winning lineups, but man, like, that's just brutal.
Yeah, I think he ended up losing 8 differential points, which, I mean, he was up top 3rd, 4th. And so you add that on there, it's even more.
And Keselowski was like never a threat in the race at all. And he ends up luck boxing a win.
Yeah. I mean, Penske was impressive last night. After not showing much speed at Darlington, they came out and did very well. And I mean, they're not traditionally strong at Charlotte either. So that was very surprising.
You were all over that call. So what's the name of the team you were saying with all these guys that crushed, Jimmy and Penske? Who'd you say it was?
No, it's Hendrick Motorsports.
Hendrick, yeah. Like that was the best call of the day. Literally, the first thing I wrote down on my notes for the week was, after reading your article and talking to you a little bit, I wrote down those 4 guys, and they all crushed, right?
I mean they've been so fast, man. Starting last year, and I mean last year they were so fast, but they were would fall off tremendously. And then as the year got better and better, they got a little better. And then, starting this year, they've really, built it up and back to where they were a couple years ago.
One more thing, too, about this race. So I just talked about how those four were clearly the best plays. But in the $12, we talked a little on the Zoom last night about this, but Almirola starts 40th, finishes 16th, which, as a novice truck player or whatever you want to call me, I don't understand how he can start 40th, finish 16th, and not be in the winning team in the $12 massive field tournament.
Right.
Coop, how did this happen?
I don't know, and it wasn't like he was priced egregiously, because if you think he was priced egregiously, like $9K, that would make more sense. But it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And another guy you talked about, and we talked about specifically because I asked you about him, was Cole Custard, who was absolutely one of the guys you definitely wanted, and you talked about how it's kind of that perfect scenario where the guy just lets you down, in a big spot where everyone's kind of on him the race before. And you got to kind of keep going back to that driver. And, he's going to eventually pan out for you. And you hit that, with Custard for sure.
Yeah. Well, we did get a little bit of break. He was probably the only driver that, I had in my pool, and many of us had in our pools that, did take advantage of those last two laps, because I think he was around 18th or 19th, and then he ended up 13th. So, that helped out tremendously for him too. But, all the other ones killed us.
I should talk about that too, because I did complain. I was up a ton before that wreck in the last two. But Custer on my main team, he did surge me upwards. So I got to take credit for a little luck in that last two.
There were a lot of people in our company, in our Discord, that were up a lot of money before those last two laps, just so people they're, I think it's still hurting a lot of people. I'm sure Tony this morning, but I know for a fact that, our guy Mangone, he's still in bed. He's still
he's probably still talking to himself.
He's still
about it.
he was in rough shape after that race last night. So
he was there the whole flipping race, man. I mean, the whole race he was up there.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
it was clearly like the best team, right? You had Chase. Yep. I mean, you had Bowman and Chase and the four value guys, right?
Yep.
Or was it Truex? Truex and
Truex. Yeah, Truex.
Yeah, but like the whole race, you had all the laps led. It was just the best team. Like that build with those four guys and the two, like it was just the best build the whole night.
All right, well, let's segue. This would be a perfect time to kind of segue into the fact that, Coop's article, all our stuff at your DFS playbook is still free. All the content you guys can get. So, I mean, make sure you go over there, check that stuff out. Coop's been crushing, Mike, Matty Ice. Those guys have been crushing the NASCAR content. So go over there, check their stuff out. It's free. Just put in your information, and it's free content. Run Pure Sports, our site will be launching soon. We're hoping sometime in early June. So, I mean, make sure you keep an eye out for that. Go subscribe, throw your email in for updates there. And also we're on iTunes, Spotify. Make sure, give us a like, subscribe, maybe write us a comment as well. So, I mean, guys, let's kind of get into this Xfinity race. And the first thing I want to talk about, Coop, what's the difference between Xfinity and NASCAR? Because there are some differences you were telling me. So can you just kind of explain that for everyone?
Yeah, there's a couple of big differences. The cars that are driven in the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series are similar, but they're not the same. I'm not a mechanically inclined person, so I can't really get into the depth of it. But I do know there's a big difference. And the one thing that I want to get with Matty Ice to figure out is is it enough of a difference to make the race from last night be different than tonight? Last night we saw where it was really tough to pass once you got out front. Is that going to be the case tonight? So that's the first thing. And then the next piece, and probably a bigger edge, and something that we got to get with Matty also, is these drivers and teams don't always drive the same cars every single week. And it's really about equipment. And, for example, Big T could be driving, the 36 one week, and it's in great equipment. And then the next week he's driving, the 34, which isn't in as good equipment. So, if you're not paying attention to that and who is in what equipment, because the equipment is much more impactful from an edge perspective. In the Xfinity series, you could be, surprised when you see the results. So, and then the last thing is there's some start and park drivers, like I think Jeff Green has already said, he has no funding for tonight. So he'll start the race, and probably after 4 or 5 laps, if not sooner, he'll be going to the garage. So don't play Jeff Green.
Yeah, so Jeff Green's basically out of the player pool. That's good info right there. Anything else before we get into these drivers?
Nope.
All right, so let's kind of talk about it, and let's talk first about the elephant in the room, Kyle Busch. Clearly the best driver. I can remember doing the show last week, and he was a big favorite then. He did lose to Chase Briscoe, who edged him out, and Kyle came in second. But I mean, Kyle, minus 134 favorite. He's 17K on DraftKings. I mean, we paid 16K for him last week. Now he's 17K. What are we doing with Kyle Busch here, guys? I mean, Coop, why don't you start, and then we'll get to Tony. But what are you doing?
I would probably fade. But these are the two scenarios, I look at what's going to happen. He's $1,000 more. He's starting 8 spots ahead of what he was the last race. So he has to make up those eight potential points somehow. So how can he do that? He can do that by fastest laps. He can do it by winning, versus finishing second, and then also laps led. So he's going to be closer to the front, so he can get there quicker, all right, which is an advantage. There's more laps in this race than what there was in Darlington, so that's an advantage for him too. But in order to play him, in my opinion, like when you click on him, I think he takes you down to like 6.6K remaining for your other 5 drivers. He has to really, really, really dominate, because, unless some crazy stuff happens, these drivers, for the most part, 2 or 3 of them that you're going to have to fill out are probably not going to get very many points. But if he dominates to the point of where, he leads 125 laps and, gets, 50 or 60, fastest laps, he can put up a 100 plus 20, 34 point score, which would make him viable. So if you think that's going to happen, play him. If you don't think that's going to happen, I wouldn't play him. Because, the other piece too that's going to be interesting is I think he was around 55, 60% owned. And how many people, what's this going to be his ownership? He's gone up 1,000. So, perhaps, maybe, he comes in at 20, 30%, maybe even less, who knows? Or, do people still have the same thought process and load up 50, 55, 60% Kyle Busch? So it's going to be really interesting. But me, and you either play him or you don't play him. I'm not going to be any of this. I'll play a couple lineups, just in case he hits. Either all in or all out on Kyle Busch, as far as I'm concerned. And then the other piece too that I would be cautious with, if you decide to play him, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of duplicated lineups with him, because when his salary goes down that low, there's only so many drivers that, potentially can, be positive in that area. So I would look for a lot of multiple lineups with him.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember I was in the big DraftKings tournament for Xfinity last week, and I remember he was like 56% or somewhere around there, so just a little over 50%. And right. I mean, he's gone up 1,000. What's that going to do to his ownership? Maybe it comes down a little bit. But you're right. There's probably going to be a ton of duplicated lineups. If he wins, you're definitely splitting it with a lot of people. So in tournaments, Tony, I know you're multi-entering today. What is your strategy for GPPs? How are you handling multi-entering when it comes to Kyle Busch?
Yeah, so that's why I love what Coop does too for this NASCAR, because I've always had the same strategy. Every sport I play, I mean, even in the showdowns, some of my success has been taking stands like on different things. I'm not afraid to fade anyone, not afraid to go all in on anyone really. So I just think you have to do it. Like, there's no reason to play 50% Kyle Busch tonight and just be along with the field. Just play him or fade him. Like, the truth of the matter is probably he's either gonna lead most of the race and completely dominate, and you're gonna need him, or maybe he runs pretty good but doesn't lead a ton, finishes second like last time. I mean, that's basically what happened. He got a speeding penalty, I think, or whatever penalty he got, went to the back, and then worked his way all the way to the front again. Almost won, had a little battle towards the end, but got second, and he was fine. Like he did okay. But and another problem with him is you got to play some of these garbage guys down low if you play them, and these dudes are just terrible. I mean, you look at these guys, you can't really trust any of them, or at least not multiple of them. And I think you can just build a better team without them. So I definitely think you either play or fade. I think I'm leading the fade too, but man, it does suck when you're fading a guy that literally could go out and lead the whole race basically once he gets to the front. I don't know, though. He's starting 18th. If he doesn't lead a ton of laps, he's not going to be on the winner, I don't think.
Right. He has to get a lot of fastest laps and lead a lot of laps to be able to pay off. So, and the other piece, too, with this is we found out on, the last race, these guys that are up front competing with them, they're not going to back down. This is their show. They don't care if it's Kyle Busch or not, man. To them, it's even more important and more thriving. Hey, I freaking beat Kyle Busch, man. I stomped him, man. He couldn't come back and beat me, man. So, they're not going to back down. They're not going to make it easy for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, all right. So let's talk about this. You guys are both kind of leaning towards the fade. I think I might be leaning that way too, even though, like you guys said, it's so hard to, think about fading this guy. But it's just in tournaments when you're playing with that many, people in the tournaments, you're playing in big tournaments, and it makes a lot of sense. Where are you guys going, pivot at the top? Like who are you going to kind of offset Kyle Busch, because you're probably going to be able to get two of the more expensive guys if you're not playing Kyle Busch. Who are your favorite kind of at the top after Kyle? Coop.
I got three people that I'm looking at. The first one is the pole sitter Ross Chastain. He's not in the equipment that he was in last year. He was with Ganassi, and he had very, very good equipment. He is in solid equipment, though. But what I want to find out, throughout the day is it going to be similar to last night, where you're on the pole, you're going to get out there, you're going to lead, So, that interests me. If it's going to be different than last night, then no, I don't have any interest in Ross Chastain. But if, we see it similar to last night, I do want to play him. The other two drivers, off of Chastain that interest me is Daniel Hemrick and Austin Cindric. Hemrick, I still got Hendrick in my mind, man, when instead of saying Hemrick. But Hemrick is in very good equipment. He's in Richard Childress Racing. And they had a solid night last night with Reddick and Austin Dillon. So that tends to make me believe that they're going to bring a very good car here too. Hemrick has a lot of good experience. He starts 12th, so I think he has a potential to dominate and get you some place differential points. Austin Cindric is a Penske driver, and no different than what I said last night or just a minute ago about last night. Penske was very surprising. I think Cindric also starting 6th, which is kind of a no man's land. He would have to get up there, lead some laps, get some fastest laps, but I think he's going to be pretty well low owned. So I'd like to start with Hemrick and Cindric if I don't go the route of Chastain.
All right. I like that. Hemrick's a guy I was looking at. Tony, what about you? Who are you thinking of kind of pivoting to if you're not playing Kyle Busch at the top?
So I think for me, just again, as the novice in the room, like I look at odds, I look at the pricing, I look at what I think the ownership will be, just like every sport, just like it's just what DFS is for me, especially when I don't know something. So the two big favorites of the race are Kyle, obviously at minus 135, massively priced. I think I'm going to fade him. And then Chase Briscoe is clearly like the second favorite at plus 450 to win it. And he won. He was the guy kind of battling the last time in the Xfinity. But he's kind of expensive too. I mean, at $12K,
right. Yep.
He's $5K cheaper than Kyle, but like maybe, yeah, if I can fit him, I like him. But man, it's nice kind of to fade those two. But again, that's just the GPP mind in me where it seems crazy to fade the two big favorites. But man, your team is so much nicer. You don't have to play any of the scrubs. Some of the guys that Coop was naming look good to me. I mean, there's a lot of guys in this range. Like Algier, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Starting fourth, he could easily go out and lead a bunch of the – he looked good last week in the Xfinity. Strong driver. I like him. Chastain could go out. Chastain's so cheap, too, at only 87. I mean, he's half price of freaking Kyle. Starting in the one hole, he could lead a bunch of laps. Yep. I like a lot of these guys in this range. Even a guy like Burton, who no one's going to play Burton starting 11th. Right. Like, he's got to be low owned. And
like I agree, Big T. I think, an even more contrarian way to go. I said Hemrick and Cindric would be Burton and Cindric.
Yeah. It just looks tasty too, because say you throw Chase, say I don't even know how many teams, I haven't looked at the prize pools tonight, but say I play 50 teams tonight. If I just fade Kyle and Briscoe and like some of the really garbage guys that we'll get to down at the bottom, like, I mean, this Fincham and some of the just total scrubs at the bottom that like BJ McLeod starting 14th, like you don't have to play these just total bums that might not even race the whole race. So throw out the top two guys, throw out all these scrub dudes at the bottom, and just kind of see what you come up with for the last 50 teams is my plan. Take some stands too, which I'm not 100% sure on my stands yet, but I like where Coop was at with that, with Hemrick and Burton starting 11th and 12th. They could still get to the front too, honestly, and they could lead last, but you got nice place differential there. So you got what, 21,400 in salary, which would be Kyle and a 7K guy. So you got, if you can get those two guys to beat Kyle and say Josh Williams or who else is in this 7K range, like Ryan Sieg, if you can get our two guys to beat those two guys, you're going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously, if you guys were playing cash, just so we can get this out of the way, would it just be Kyle Busch? Would you just lock him in or would you, I mean, most likely, right? What would you do?
I mean, it's always hard for me to answer cash questions because I'm not good at cash. But I think I'd still fade him. Like, I hate these cheap guys.
Yeah, I'm with Big T. There's a couple guys in the mid-range that I think are locks that you need to play in cash. And I don't know if you can fit them in there with Kyle Busch.
All right, nice. So let's get to those locks then.
The other thing too, you got to remember this is NASCAR. Like, who expected Denny Hamlin to pull out off a pit road last night and have that equipment drop off the bottom of his car? You never know who that's going to happen to. These crazy things happen all the time, man, in NASCAR. Like, you think they got everything figured out, and then something crazy, unexpected happens.
Someone's due to crash
Kyle Busch tonight.
Kyle's got a few people mad at him about last week. He could easily – everyone thought he could get crashed yesterday. He could easily get taken out today, right?
I love when NASCAR put him and Chase when they were right next to each other and they just put their names up and they're really highlighting what happened to them. And I love that.
Coop, but Coop, who's like in the same team type thing with Chase that could be interested in some sort of revenge? Is there anyone? I mean, I don't know anything about that.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But, the other piece you were talking about last night, I thought it was funny. I saw a clip where, Chase Elliott was bent over on his car last night, leaning up against it. And guess who came up behind him?
Kyle
Busch, man.
Yeah, I saw that clip too.
To talk to him. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Chase did run really bad the last 2 races. Like, I feel bad for the poor guy.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking about how we wanted him to win kind of at the end because we felt bad for him, and then that whole thing happened. And
I honestly thought he had the best car yesterday. I mean, Bowman had a good car too, but Chase was really good that entire race. He got pushed back a few times with like bad decisions here and there, but as far as just his car was awesome.
Yeah, and I mean Bowman had had a great plan when they only did the 2 tires and then got him out in front. And then he kind of held on. There were some times where I thought Truex was going to take him over, and he held on with those 2 tires, and that kind of helped him too. But let's talk about the mid-tier. Coop, let's go to you first because you have 2 locks in the mid-tier who you really like. Give me those. Give me those guys for cash, and then maybe a GPP pivot in the mid-tier.
Hey, before we get there, there's one thing I need to get with Matty Ice and ask about is that's at Alex Lebay. He's starting dead last in 37th position, and he's priced at 9.2K. So you see a lot of potential place differential options coming from him. The price is expensive though. The other piece is I was doing a little research this morning, and he's one of them drivers that's not driving the same car as what he drove last week. And the car that he drove, or the car that he is driving this week, that performed in Darlington, finished, I think, like 27th, 28th. So, I don't think he's playable, but I got to get with Matty Ice to figure out what's going on exactly with him. Because, if he does have a fast hot rod, and starting 37th, and he can get up to 15th, he could be potentially a good play. Or on the other end, people could be looking at it like, me, and want to jump in, and then it's just an edge that we would gain if we faded him. That's why I want to get with Matty.
Just as far as like projections, I got a few different projection places up, and like his projection looks terrible, which because I feel like we might be missing something with him. Maybe it's the car, like you said. His car's just total trash or something.
Right. So pay attention later. Matty will get back to us and let us know.
We'll get some sort of playbook up too. I'll work on getting something up today. We'll get something up for the people.
All right. But as far as like mid-range, I think you have Jeremy Clements. He's starting 27th. He's 8.5. It's a hefty price for him, but he does have that place differential option for you. He's not going to get up there and lead any laps, so you're banking on place differential for him. He's up and down. He's had some really good races. He's had some bad races, so he is risky. But I think his top is probably around top 10. When you're looking at potential. Below him is Jeffrey Earnhardt. Again, we may not find the equipment and stuff like that. But he's been in good equipment. He's been very, very good. And then below him is Moffitt, and he's similar. He had a very good week last week. So I think, you really got to take one of those 3 drivers, but we really need to figure out which one it is. Because when I was talking to Matty last week, he really wasn't as high as on Moffitt. Moffitt is a trucker. And, he's in NASCAR or Xfinity this year. And it all is going to come down to, the equipment. And then the last 2 more people in that range, Austin Hill is a trucker. He's a young guy. And I don't think he's run a lot of Xfinity. He intrigues me. And then Jess Little, who I think, from what I see, is almost a guarantee play in cash because I think he does have solid equipment and he is a rookie. So, but those would be the 4 or 5.
You talked about Moffitt, and we've got our resident, truck expert Tony on. So, I mean, Tony, this guy's a lock for you, right? You're just going to lock him in as the truck guy.
I did like it. I mean, that's got to be good mojo when he says that the trucks and Moffitt. And I like him. I mean, 22nd. I kind of like the guys in that range that are decent drivers just because, like I said, the guys at the bottom, I mean, I know from doing the show last week and watching it that there's a lot of the guys that just go out and park in the Xfinity. Is it like that every week, Coop, where there's 5 or 6 guys that literally aren't going to finish the race no matter what?
Yeah, it's probably anywhere from 2 to 5 drivers every week.
And so I like guys like Moffitt that starting 22nd. He's priced kind of in that mid-range. Again, like half price, in that range of half price of what Kyle is, where you can play two of these guys and get what you would need from Kyle if he doesn't lead every lap. So I love Moffitt. I kind of like this range too. Like this Gregson guy started first last week, I believe, and kind of some people were talking about playing him to be a dominator type thing. Starting 10th, though, he's in that same range as we were talking about, like with who was the other two? Burton and Hemrick starting 11th and 12th, where I like that. I like that mid-range guys that we can play these guys by not playing Kyle. Like, whereas if you play Kyle, you're just not going to be able to live in that range at all. So I think it still kills me to say that I'm going to fade Kyle because, man, it's hard when you know that the guy could literally just dominate the entire race. But I like this range. I mean, Gregson, Burton, Hemrick. I mean, like I said, I don't really want to play Briscoe, but yeah, I like living in that range, 10, 11, 12 guys. Moffitt at 22. Trying to Clements, I do like that call in 27th, 8,500. I like all of those guys.
Like I look at it too. Like when you get down to Jess Little at 7.8, and you go to the drivers after him, like to me, the upside significantly drops off. Because I mean, you can go down to Riley Herbst or Justin Haley. They're 7 and 6.9. They're in very good equipment, but they're starting 3rd and 5th. So, they do have a lot of downside also within them. But I just think that once you get past Little, man, it drops off tremendously as far as upside goes.
You said Haley's got good equipment in that 3-hole?
Yeah, Haley and Herbst both have good equipment in that 3 and 5-hole.
So because I always listen to you and I like grouping guys in the same thing. Like, so Haley at 6,900, Chastain at 8,700, starting 1st and 3rd. I mean, I guess you could I don't know much about Brandon Jones in there, but would you like group these guys? Like, I shouldn't play Chastain with Haley, right? Like, they got to be in a group where I play one or the other.
Right. I wouldn't group them together because I think it provides too much negative correlation in this particular race. Like last night, I was completely fine with putting like Jimmy Johnson and Chase Elliott together.
You wouldn't put Jimmy and Kurt together yesterday, though, right?
If there was a race that I did it in, it probably would have been that race. But no, I didn't, and I wouldn't. And if I did do it, it would be very limited. And the reason, behind it is, there was 400 laps last night. So there was, twice as much ample opportunity for them in what is tonight's race to both, be dominators. It's very rare that you have two drivers in the top 3 or 4 to pair together and they do both very well for you. And if that's going to happen in a scenario, it's going to be a race where you have 400 or 500 laps. So I wouldn't consider that tonight. I'd put them in separate pools.
Like it.
All right. So you guys talked about kind of living in the mid-range and you guys liking those guys kind of in that 8 to 9K range. But if we had to go down and take some cheap guys or take one or two cheap guys, who are those two? And maybe you don't still love them, but just for the people, if you had to go down, Coop, who are the two guys kind of down low that you would take a shot with?
Well, the Graf Jr. guy sticks out for me. He was, solid last week. I think he started farther back than what he is this week, but I think he has top, 18, 22 potential. And I think, with him, he's going to be highly owned because, he's the one that sticks out for me in this range. And I'm sure he sticks out for everybody. And again, he's going to be highly owned. But you can probably eliminate half of his ownership because it's going to be paired with Kyle Busch. Because when you play Kyle Busch, he's probably the next guy you're clicking on. So right. I think, if you're going to play him, going with what Big T and I were talking about earlier, with Burton and Cindric and Hemrick and people like that, that's going to help you. because, you're going to be off of them from the Kyle Busch perspective. The other guy that intrigues me down here at the bottom, and I got to get with Maddie about this, and Big T was dogging him a little bit earlier, is BJ McLeod. The guy is 4.5K.
I just hate that he starts 14th, though.
But hold on. He starts 14th, all right? I don't know how many points you get off the top of my head for finishing 14th. We'll just say it's 28. I don't know. Yeah. If he finishes 16th, he loses 2, all right? And from my perspective, I think he would still be getting a lot more points than like a Fincham or a Bassett or a Green or a Howard or a Massey, even if he finishes maybe 17th or 18th, And I think he's in better equipment. I could be wrong, but I think he's in better equipment than what, he's being priced at. So again, I have some, options of maybe playing him, but I want to get with Matty Ice first before I make a fool of myself and click on him.
Says he took over for the David Starr number 6 car.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like if you're looking at this from a DraftKings, and you click on it, like I think they show him in like the number 0 car, but like if you click on somebody else, they show him in the number 0 car too. Yeah. So like that's why I said you got to really figure out like who's driving what cars in the equipment this week. So Fincham is the same way. He's starting 13th. But, looking at his results, I think he has, pretty easy to finish 25th, 26th and lose a lot more. But, that's why I said McLeod. So, and then this Bassett guy, he was the guy who I think drove Alex LeBay's car last week and finished like 26th. And now he's starting 19th. So, you can eliminate him. You can eliminate Green.
You just eliminated Bassett was like by far my favorite guy, and you just eliminated him.
Yeah,
hurting my feelings here. We got Bassett. We got a head-to-head showcase here. Bassett versus McLeod.
So, I know Massey, Matty Ice was high on him last week, so he could be somebody who could potentially play. Joe Nemechek, man. I mean, he might, pass out in the car. A guy's so old, man. I don't know anything about this Vanderwall. Miller, I think, is another driver who's starting in good equipment, but that's why I'm interested in McLeod. Even if he only loses like 4 or 5 spots, I think he can outscore all these guys. And at that price, man, he's going to save you a lot of money. Like, I don't know if we click on it, but maybe we could play McLeod, Hemrick, Cindric, and Burton.
Yeah, like you said, with the guys at the bottom, a lot of them are going to be paired with Kyle Busch. So I think, even if their ownership is even if some of those guys like Graf is going to be popular, a lot of the lineups, probably 40-50%, like Kyle Busch is going to be up there. So like a lot of them are going to have to be paired with those cheap guys. So you making a lineup with, 1 or 2 of those guys at the bottom and then getting a bunch of high price 8K, 9K guys, that is also a really good way to kind of make your lineups a little more contrarian.
The other driver I want to ask Matty Ice about is Maya Snyder. The name rings a bell. I think he does. He's young. I think he does have some potential, but he's starting 17th. I don't know if he has a lot of upside, but get with Matty about that.
All right. So I think we can go on to the final part, which is, we got to pick the winner. Tony, let's start with you. Who you got winning this race? You said you're fading Kyle.
I'm kind of torn now because this is always how my mind works. So I like to be open with it. Like, I didn't love the value. Coop all of a sudden sells me on McLeod. I already liked Bassett. They're 48 and 4,500. Coop made a good point that it really hit home with me that if both of these guys' cars stay clean and they finish, say they finish 16th and 17th, I think at these price points, they'll score enough points to where Kyle all of a sudden is back in play for me if I play these 2 guys together. But
yeah, but if what we're talking about works out, there's going to be so many lineups that have Kyle Busch, Graf Jr., and McLeod. That's why I like
you're
playing.
You're going to be tying with everyone. You're going to be tying with half the field, Tony.
That's why I like playing those two guys with our center.
Not with Bassett. People aren't going to play Bassett and McLeod a ton.
They're going to have to because they're going to be playing a bunch of these guys with Kyle Busch in their lineup. They're going to have to.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, so what? You're picking them to win? Is that
that wouldn't even be any fun to pick him to win.
Yeah, so let's hear it.
Give me Burton. I'm going to go with Burton to get the dub. I like what I see with my man Burton here.
All right, Coop, who you got?
I'm going to go with Hemrick.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Hemrick as well.
You can't pick the same guy. Come on.
I can't.
Pick somebody.
Wait a second. No, we talked about this last time.
No.
You can literally pick whoever you want. This isn't like a game between us. We both think Hemrick has a shot to win.
No.
I'm going with Hemrick.
Change, Don't change.
I would have picked Hemrick if I picked before.
Right. Hemrick isn't winning.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll see about that. I'll take Hemrick versus Burton if you want it. You can give me whatever you want.
Yeah, I want that. How much can we go?
Whatever you want.
Hemrick isn't. Oh yeah. Oh, whatever you want. I'm in.
Okay, we'll figure that one out. But
hey
guys,
before we move on, did you want to talk about the betting piece with Kyle Busch, Big T, versus playing him in DFS maybe?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Did you want to talk about maybe the betting piece with Kyle Busch versus playing him in DFS?
Yeah, so Kyle Busch is minus 135 right now to win the race. I think we all kind of agree that you're either going to play him or fade him in DFS-wise. But if you're going to play him almost, you might as well just bet him at minus 135 because then it doesn't matter if he leads all the laps. He just has to win. DFS-wise, he could win and not even be close to the winner if he doesn't lead a ton of laps. So I think if you like him, it could be a good route just to bet him at minus 135. Say you're going to play 100. It could also be a hedge too. I don't hedge. I'm not a hedge guy, but say you were going to fade him DFS-wise. Say you have $100 in DFS and a $100 bet. If you fade him DFS-wise and bet him for 100, it's a decent hedge. There's just options with him at minus 135 that really open up some doors for you that aren't there DFS-wise.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. Guys, we've been getting this question a lot. And, for Discord will be up when the new site is up. So memberships will be up starting hopefully in early July when we get the new site launched. So that's why I'm saying make sure you go to Run Pure Sports and throw your email in there so you can get updates on when we're going to launch because that's when Discord will be available for new membership. So make sure to check that out. Also remember, like us, subscribe, YouTube, Twitch. We got iTunes and Spotify we're on as well. So
someone's making fun of you in the YouTube chat too. Said JSU always picks the same guy. I agree. JSU is soft. He always picks the same guy. I agree with you.
JSU is soft. Last time I picked Kyle Busch, I got shamed because I had no stones. This time I don't take Kyle Busch.
Yeah, you got to stop copying.
Yesterday, wait a second. Hold on. Let's throw that out the window. Yesterday, Coop's on with me and Mikey, and JSU picked Alex Bowman. No one picked Alex Bowman. Both of them picked Jimmy Johnson. I picked Alex 20th Bowman.
Place. You got to pick better.
He finished 20th place, but he led how many laps? And he won 2 stages. Come on.
I mean, there's no moral victories on the Run Pure Sports shows. There's no moral victories. You got to get to the finish line.
Moral victories. The guy had one of the 2 best cars the entire race. Moral victories. Stoneless JSU picked Daniel Hemrick. We talked about it. We're not coming off of it, right, Coop? We don't hedge or change our bets after, like someone, Mikey, on our show yesterday. So I will not be doing that. I will be staying with my guy Hemrick. Tony, we can make a bet. We'll throw it in Discord.
Can't wait.
But guys, for me, JSU, Tony, Coop, we're out.
Peace.